Alright guys, so now what we need to do is, first things first, actually make the form so the user has, something to click on. So in my details view, I'm actually just going to go ahead and get rid of all this because I'm not going to make this a list item anymore. I'm actually going to make them form inputs. So I'll keep this all the same. All this red Taylor Swift and then the logo. I think that'll be, pretty cool to have still. So before we even have the form section, what you should always do is you should include a section for an error message. So an error message is going to pop up whenever the user tries to do something that isn't valid. Like maybe you were having them sign up for your webpage and they forgot to input a username. Or maybe they tried to make a password that was only 2 characters long. So you would want to put a little prompt at the top of the form like, hey, you need to actually, make a password that's at least like 8 characters or something. So it's actually really simple to do. Go ahead and make an if, and you can actually name this variable anything you want. But I'm just going to say if error message, because later on whenever we're handling this form, usually we're just going to want to say, okay, do something to the database, redirect them to this page, no problem. But if something bad does happen, then we can redirect them to this page, and then we're gonna actually store an error message in here in this variable, and we'll set it equal to like, hey, use a longer password, or whatever we want to tell them. So just make a conditional right in there, and you can style this however you want. I'm just gonna make something bold real quick. So strong, and I'll just say error message. So hopefully this will not exist. There won't be any error messages and this will not even appear. But if it does, then they're going to have a little bold message at the top says, hey, you did something wrong. All right, so now we want to end if. All right, so that's all we need to do. And later on, whenever I set this, you guys are going to easily see what I'm talking about. Let me clean this up. I like being able to scroll for some reason. Ooh, feel so free. All right. So now we just need to go ahead and make a form. And all right, let's build this step by step. So what is the action of the form? The action is what URL you want to send this data to. And of course, we just want to send it to this right here. But remember, instead of just hard coding this, we have that cool shortcut. So back in here, all right, let me just copy this because I'm too lazy to type it out. And all right, so the action for this is music favorite. So that's the URL pattern, and we can go ahead and pass in the album ID as well, because we also need to pass in the song ID. But for the song ID, we're going to be getting it from these inputs. So there you go. Now another attribute that we want to add is the method. So the method of this is going to be post. Most of your forms, of course, are going to be post. I assume that you guys already know about getting post. So there you go. Now, one other thing that's kind of weird with Django is it always is a good idea to have a CSRF token. And I'm going to talk to you guys about security and the best security practices with Django in a whole nother tutorial. But if you guys just want to look at it a little bit, look up cross-site request forgery, and it's a pretty cool topic. So CSRF token, and usually whenever you're making websites, this is a pain in the butt to add. But the awesome thing about Django is whenever you want to use it in Django, you just add that, and Django takes care of everything behind the scenes. Pretty cool. All right, so we have a form right there. So now what we want to do is we want to list through this album and just loop through every song and make that a choice. And we already did that before, so remember that was for song and album dot song set dot all. And let me just go ahead and end my for. End for. All right. So we're going to loop through all of the songs. And for each one, what do we want to do? Well, we need 2 things. An input button, and that's going to be the radio button that they click, and also a label. And the label is just going to be the title of each song so the user knows what the heck option they're selecting. So let's go ahead and do our input first. So again, I'm just using a radio button. You can use a checkbox if you want, but whatever. So of course the type of this equals radio. Now the ID is pretty much just for your HTML. So for the first one, it's just going to be song 1 and then song 2 and then song 3. So we really don't use it in code, but whenever we have labels, we pretty much give it the same ID, so that way it knows that this input or this radio button is for that label. So you guys are going to see later on whenever we run the final site, but there you go. So I'm just going to write song and then for loop counter. So again, this is going to get auto incremented each time it prints out a song. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's already built in. We don't have to do anything weird with that. Now after this, just set name equal to song and value equal to song ID. So let me scroll so you guys can see. So again, later on, whenever we actually pass this data, all of the form data to the views function so we can actually handle it, this is going to be the name or just the variable's name, and then this is going to be the song ID. So we'll pretty much say get the ID of whatever song they selected. Let's say that this one was 20, and then it's going to look through the database and then do its thing. All right. Holy crap, what's going on here? I have my font way bumped up for, you know, just so I can, just so it looks better on YouTube, and it's kind of hard whenever I'm programming. I never program with my font this big, so that's why it's like kind of freaking me out. All right, so now let's just go ahead and make a nice little pretty label for the user. So for the label, the first thing you write is this, for, and this attribute is the exact same as this. So for song 1, song 2, yada yada, whatever. So again, this is mostly just for display. And what do we want to display in the label? Well, let me just go ahead and display the song title. I really don't care about the file type. I don't think the user is going to care about that either. So I'll just write song title. Now another thing that I'm going to do is this. How does the user know that their song is favorited? Well, I'm going to go ahead and find some star icon online, and we'll say that if a particular song is favorited, then right where this is on the right hand side, just go ahead and plop that star logo. So whatever favorites they have, it's going to have a nice yellow star right next to it. So how do we add that logic? Well, it's pretty simple. Actually, we can go ahead and copy this. All right, so delete this, and instead of checking for if error message, we can say if song is favorite. So if the song is the favorite, then what do we want to happen? Well, let me just pause the video and find some image. All right, so I actually just made one real quick. All right, so if this song is their favorite, then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna plop up this image, and I'll show you guys what this is. I don't know if you guys can even see that. So it's only a little star, so that's why it looks all fuzzy. 16 by 16, but this is gonna appear right next to the song. Looking good. All right, mate, looking sweet. And actually, after this label, I'm gonna add a line break, and that way every song is gonna appear on a new line. So they do right now because they're list items, and they do that by default. But to ensure that it does that with form labels, just gonna add that line break. Now the last thing that we need to do is we actually need to add a submit button, because if we just run it right now, then it's just gonna be a bunch of radio button options, and the user can select one, but they can't submit it. So I'll just say input, let me bump this in. So input, the type equals submit, and the value is just what text you want to appear on the button. I'll just say favorite. It has no effect on your program whatsoever. So there you go.